Welcome everybody to another episode of Extraordinary Joes. Today we are in the TOY-bBOX studios with my lovely, amazing wife, Sarah. Welcome to the show.
Hi.
Thank you for doing this. I know that you are not a big fan of podcasts, and I know that you're not a big fan of recording, so I know this is a lot for you to do, so thank you. Today's episode, I have her on because there are many things that I could tell you make her extraordinary. Aside from the obvious, she does things on the daily to take care of me, the dogs, the house, the whole world, including working a full-time job where she's in charge of taking care of a whole nother family of people. But that's not what we're talking about today. What we are talking about today is the extraordinary feat that she managed by planning and executing an entire vacation by herself, where I did not help at all, did I?
No, but I didn't do it all by myself. I had the travel agent.
Okay, but I didn't contribute to that. That was you.
Okay.
And it was an international trip, which makes it even that much more difficult. So, can you start by telling me, first of all, how Egypt came into play as the trip that you wanted to take?
I don't know. Ever since I was little, and I honestly, the whole cliche thing about seeing the mummy when I was younger, kind of always, I don't know, ever since I saw that movie, it became a fascination with Egypt. And then as I got older, I started watching actual documentaries on it and all the historical findings, and it just became an obsession, really, with it, and wanted to go before people started ruining the historical sites, because a lot of people are doing that in other countries.
No kidding.
So I wanted to make sure that we got to see that before anything was destroyed.
Perfect. And did Assassin's Creed play any part into that?
Well, yes and no. That fascination started before Assassin's Creed Origins came out, but once it did, then it became even bigger, and then I get to play it now and say I've been there.
Perfect. Okay, now this is catering to people who may want to take a trip in the future and you don't know how to start. You don't know, like me, for instance, how I would even go about getting started on a trip like this. Now, obviously, you save money. Now, that's the given. Everybody knows that. But how did you go about finding somebody to make these arrangements for us?
One of my biggest concerns was being in a country that is a Middle Eastern country, so I wanted to make sure that I wasn't offending anybody over there and respecting the culture. And I wanted to find someone that would be able to help us achieve that. And when I did the research into finding somebody who's been there, who's been in the culture, who understands it, can help us navigate through it. And I went on a lot of different websites, and I know, what is that, TripAdvisor? What is it?
Yeah, TripAdvisor.
When I went on there, I know that's not like people always say, go here instead. TripAdvisor is always not true.
Yeah.
But they have a called Rico. I don't remember what it's called. It's something that's not, it's their sister site that they have travel agents on. And they give you a list of people, and I end up finding Sophia on there, who ended up being the best travel agent. And
So Sophia was awesome.
yeah, that I kind of did a lot of research. She sat down and talked to me about kind of exactly what we're talking about here, why I wanted to go to Egypt and what I wanted to see.
Perfect. Real quick, I just wanted to say for the listeners, we are smoking the hookah, which is something that we always do. This was long before the Egypt trip, but yeah, so if you hear that gurgling in the background, that's the hookah going. Now, when you were planning this with Sophia, I assume that she asked you where you wanted to go, and she didn't just say that she had a whole list of things that she wanted us to do, that you told her what we wanted to do.
But she did ask me first if I knew where I wanted to go. She didn't say, like, she had a list of places that she recommended, but she asked, because I told her how much I loved Egypt and all the places that I wanted to go. She was like, okay, you tell me places that you want to see for sure, and I'll make sure to put them in. And everywhere she recommended is everywhere I wanted to go anyways, but there were more I wanted to add into that trip, so she did ask me first. Was
there any that we went to that she specifically recommended that you didn't know about or didn't?
Yes. It's where we took it was a great temple, but the horse carriage was not, that whole situation was not.
Okay, we'll get into that.
That one.
Yeah, okay.
That was one of them.
Wow, okay. I didn't know that. Okay. To that note, I wanted to say that making the decision for your travel agent is really important because I guess like you want somebody who has been there. That's really important. But also, I'm sure that there's people out there who are just trying to make a buck, who aren't in it for
Yeah, I agree.
the actual creation of these dream trips. And
Because she wasn't the first one. I reached out to like 3 or 4. She was the first one to get back to me.
okay,
And
the other one that we actually reached out to, or you did, was you found the podcast.
Egypt travel. Oh gosh, I can't remember. Hold on, I'll tell you right now.
Okay, yeah.
I'll look it up.
Okay, while she's looking that up,
His name is John.
this gentleman John has a podcast which is really really informative, and the things he talks about is very very true. We know because we experienced the things that he talks about on the podcast, and so if you're looking for somebody and Sophia isn't available or can't get to it in the time that you want to, you might want to check with John because he has a pretty good itinerary as well, and he's a really knowledgeable guy. He's lived in Egypt.
Goes all the time, and it's Egypt Travel Podcast, and they have a website called EgyptTravelBlog.com.
Yeah, so definitely there's two really good resources. Now, what's Sophia's company called?
Story Travel.
Storied Travel. Yeah, so okay, so there's your two probably in our opinion best resources would be Sophia with Storied Travel and John with the Egypt Travel Podcast or Egypt Travel Blog.
So, one thing that I didn't plan, I didn't do much research into hotels or where to stay.
Oh, okay.
Sophia had all those recommendations. So,
Okay.
and everywhere she had was great, especially in Aswan.
Yeah.
God, that one was amazing. I love that place.
Yeah, it was cool because it's on Elephantine Island. Is that what
Yeah.
I think is what it's called? It's basically an island in the middle of the Nile that has a real nice hotel, and they're very catering to people. Now, I want to say on that note, a lot of people are scared of travel, especially to the Middle East, and there's a lot of mistrust for other countries. But Egypt goes far out of their way to make sure that we're making them money for their tourism industry, and so they go out of their way to make sure that Americans especially are safe, but more so I would say tourists in general are safe and that they're going to have a good time. So they go above and beyond to cater to your needs, your wants, your safety. And for instance, as you're driving down the highways to go to these sites, they have military presence and police officers parked on the sides of the road, fully armed, and you stop at these checkpoints with these police officers or military officers, and they ask the driver who's in the vehicle and how many, from what country, and then you proceed on your way, and then a little while down the road you'll hit another one and they'll ask the same question. The reason they do this is because they want to make sure that as you're traveling down the highway, if you're not to the next checkpoint within a certain amount of time, a given amount of time that they expect you to be there, then they're going to send a search party out to find you and make sure that you're safe. So there's not really, because you're giving them money and you're supporting their tourism industry, they're going to go out of their way and make sure that you're safe. So that whole fear of travel to other countries for that reason is kind of unfounded. They're not out to get you. They're not out to rob you. Even the people who are begging for money, they don't want you just to give them money. They want to give you something in return. So they're working for it in their own way. Now, that being said, a lot of the stuff that they're selling is kind of, dollar store stuff. You can get it anywhere, but
As our tour guide said,
yeah, you can
made
see
in
that
China.
in the video. Yeah, made in China. So, but at least they're working for it. They're not trying to rob you. There's a really low crime rate. So don't let that be something that's going to stop you from travel.
Well, while we're on the note of travel, a lot of people, one of my concerns was being a female
Yeah.
over there, and I respected the culture enough to dress
Modestly.
modest. I didn't have to cover up or anything like that.
Right.
I did my research. Like I said, I did a lot of research, and I recommend everyone just
Do the same.
do the same. We were there and we saw tourists who were in short shorts and, tank tops and stuff, and you can totally wear that. You get a couple side glances and, of course, male advances.
Gawkers.
But I never once had to, cover up. I got tattoos. That wasn't a thing. It was actually more of like, oh my God, you got tattoos. Let me
Yeah,
see
like
'em.
a celebrity.
But no, I never felt uncomfortable. But I made sure, one, I dressed for comfort because I was in the middle of the desert, which we kind of live that now. But it never was where I had to get covered up and wear a hijab. I mean, you definitely can if you want. It was more just respecting where I was.
Well, I think on that note, you should respect any country you're going to travel to and
Yeah.
be modest. Don't dress like it's Las Vegas.
Yeah,
Yes,
it's
you're on a vacation and you're out to have fun, but also you don't need to dress down to do that. Just you don't have to dress up either. Just day to day what you would wear at home.
yeah, and you want to be comfortable for sure
Definitely comfortable.
because you're doing a lot of walking. It's hot. It's well, depending on when you go, but it's more. I just wanted to respect their culture and didn't want to offend anybody.
Yeah.
That's what it really came down to. So
Yep. Now to that note, I didn't pack my own my own attire. Sarah
packed for
handled
you.
that for me. So
yes, I did pack all his stuff, and it was the same. There's not a lot of one of the things that I did not find on any website was in regards to men's attire on like what they should wear, not where like to respect the culture, was more to like what should they wear in regards for comfort.
and for travel and
I
whatnot.
never found anything. It was I had to really dive deep into my searches for that.
Well, and
It was fairly easy.
I think that's a lot. The fact that men are treated so differently in Egypt.
Well, it's anywhere. That's everywhere. It's even here in the U.S.
No, okay, yeah, that's true.
That's not just Egypt. But it was more just for comfort-wise, like what do people recommend? And I would say it's more the same comfort. You have, loose fitting clothing that's going to just be breathable because it's going to be hot and stuff like that. But and like I said, there's no dress restrictions at all.
Right. Okay, so let's get into our recommendations. So number one recommendation on my part is save money. It's going to be expensive if you want to do the things right. Now, John with the travel podcast, he has trips that are really affordable, and you are going to stay at good hotels. You're going to have fun. You're going to see all the good sites, but it's better if you plan a budget that's more than you expect to spend, because then you have the option of doing other stuff. We got into a situation where we had to go back to another site and we had to pay for that, and luckily we had budgeted extra money for that. So
What site?
Abu Simbel.
Oh, but that was because we went twice.
That's what I'm saying. But have extra money.
Oh.
So that's what I'm saying. Budget well, save extra.
You're one to talk about.
No, I'm not good with money. None of this, I'm not taking credit for any of this. I just went on the trip and had a great time. So
Well,
this is what makes you an extraordinary Joe. This
yeah, you should plan for a trip of 2 to do it right. Well, okay, premise, we did like 90% of the country. We went from Abu Simbel all the way to Alexandria, all the way up and down the Nile. We didn't go to the Red Sea on the resort side to do like,
the party scene.
that's not party scene. It's more like beach.
Yeah, okay, well that's what I meant.
But we didn't do that because that wasn't my want for Egypt. If I'm going to go to a beach, I'm going to go to
Tropical.
Tahiti.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to I wanted Egypt for the history part of it.
Totally.
There was only one place that we didn't get to go to that they did not recommend for us to go yet because it wasn't safe, was Aswan. Not Aswan, oh my God.
There's two places that I wanted to go that we didn't go. Well, not wanted to, but now that we got back and after since we got back, I've been on this research kick and I've still been looking at videos and such. And there's two places that we didn't go that I'd like to go.
But we're getting off track here.
What's
so
the place?
We should go back real quick.
What's the place real quick that you wanted to go that they said that wasn't safe?
It's in the middle of the country, and it's only because of Assassin's Creed, and it was Siwa.
Oh, okay.
It's an oasis in the middle of the desert. You could go, but it wasn't recommended just because of some of the issues that are going on around the country.
Okay.
On the outskirts. But back to the saving the money part and the budgeting. For the two of us and to do it all that we did from, like I said, from Abu Simbel all the way up to, I should say down because it was down the Nile, was Alexandria. Up and down the Nile for 2. And I would say for the initial part and including our travel agent, it was at least $1,700, but that also include the
17,000.
17,000, sorry. I forget the extra zero. But that also included our flights. I would say at 17, but then for any extras, I would say we grand total spent about 2,100.
1,000. 21,000.
21,000, yes,
Yeah.
sorry. Yes, 21,000.
Yeah. So now, okay.
But then that includes any extras, like any extra restaurants we went
Right.
to, the extra trip that we did to back to Abu Simbel,
Right.
and tips. But
Yeah, okay. Tipping. Let's stop there for a second. Tipping is huge in Egypt. Now, everybody who gets a tip or wants a tip, they want it for a reason. There was one person that I ran into that wanted a tip for nothing, and that's when we stopped at a rest area and went to the restroom. The tour guide and I went inside the restroom, and there was a gentleman in there just holding a stack of paper towels when there was paper towels on the sink. And he expected a tip for that. And there was a lady, like, basically standing outside asking for money to go in. But aside from those, everything you do, from bellhops to service industry people to everybody wants a tip. And a lot of that is because that's how they make their money. And when you think about tips in America, $5 tip every here and there, $10 tip here and there, that's going to run you a lot of money. But in Egypt, because of the exchange rate, it's not a whole lot. A dollar goes a really, really long way there, literally. So you give a dollar and it's
well,
a few dollars in their country. So, tipping $2 or $3 is no big deal. And you can get away with a budget of maybe $200 for the 2 weeks that we were there. And that's plenty of tips for everybody.
yeah, and I think that was the exchange rates are it's crazy because that's where we kept always thinking, oh my God, this is a lot of money we're tipping because
Right.
we had the Egyptian pounds.
Right.
And we're like, oh my gosh. And then we did the exchange rate and it was, like you said,
It's not
maybe
a whole lot. But
$2.
and the people that you do want to tip a lot are the people who spend the most time with you, your tour guides, your drivers. These people are looking out for your well-being, giving you all their knowledge, and they earn it. They really earn it. Everybody we tipped really well was all those people who were really close to us, and they were really nice people. They all deserved it. So those are the people you want to go over, their expectations. So those are the big tips. But a bellhop, you're going to give them a dollar or two American, and that's a huge tip for them. So just keep that in mind. Now, there are some things that we over budgeted, thanks to me, because you don't have to fly first class or anything when you're going. You can,
Or business.
right. You can go economy and you're going to save a significant amount of money. But because it's such a long flight, if it was a direct flight, it would be 16 or 17 hours from LA to Cairo. It's basically, we did 10 and a half hours from LA to Paris, and then another 5 hours or 4 hours.
I think it was 6 hours.
Something like that from Paris to Cairo. So, being in an airplane that long, sitting in economy didn't seem ideal to me. So, and I'm an av geek. You'll learn that through this podcast. But I really wanted to experience business class, so we opted to go business class and spent a significant amount of our budget on that. Now, it's not quite half, but it's almost half of what we spent on this entire trip was just the business class tickets, which put us in first class in the American flights domestically to get to LA. And then from LA, we were business class on 2 giant planes to Paris, and then from Paris to Cairo. And that was worth every penny in my eyes, because lay flat seats, 2 square meals, and they're huge meals. I got incredibly full every freaking meal. And then, you take a little nap, and then they're there to serve you breakfast or dinner, and it's another huge meal that's more than one course. So it's definitely worth it in my eyes.
So one of my recommendations, even though we kind of already said it, is doing a travel agent. But main reason is, yeah, you can do it all by yourself, but it's so much that Sophia had done for us that I didn't have to worry. Like I'm always have to have that control and being where, what we're doing and everything. But I gave her all the reins and she took care of everything. She took care of our rides to and from the hotel. She took care of to and from the airport, to and from the sites. It was just everything was planned and set, and we did not have to worry about, oh my gosh, we gotta find this. And unfortunately, we didn't learn enough of the language beforehand to kind of help us from point A. So if you have that ability to know the language wherever you're going, then go all for it by yourself.
Definitely.
But if you don't, it's best to have that, because I mean, it was just so nice. Like, we just kind of had to show up.
Pretty much, yeah. And they are super accommodating. Most of the Egyptians, they're incredible when it comes to language.
Yeah.
Almost everybody speaks English, but on top of that, several of these tour guides, as you can see in my videos, a bunch of them speak multiple languages. So we heard people speaking Chinese, we heard people speaking Spanish, we heard German, every language you can think of. There was a tour guide there speaking that language. And to that note, Sophia puts you in touch with people that she knows personally and trusts. So these are people that she's had experiences with in Egypt, and they're great people. So
And with the language, I mean, I'm half Mexican, half Italian, so I have more of the Mexican look. And so people would try to, like the people who are selling us things would try to, they would see me and start speaking to me in Spanish.
that's so funny.
Because they see people on a day-to-day basis, so they
Right.
kind of base, and I would be like, I don't speak Spanish, and they're like, oh, American, and then they
Yep.
start speaking to me in English. So not only do your tour guides know multiple languages, most people there, I think, can speak at least to get through a conversation.
Totally. It's very impressive.
Yeah, because then they'll speak to me in Spanish, and then the people behind me, us, might be Japanese, and they'll start speaking in Japanese.
It's crazy. It's the coolest thing you've ever seen.
Yeah, it just goes from one language to another, and I thought that was...
With the greatest of ease too, and
Yeah.
and here we are with our privileged lives and didn't even speak a second language. So
Yeah.
we learned a few little phrases, and you'll get those if you take any trip over a day. You're gonna learn the basics, the thank yous, the you're welcomes kind of stuff. So now another recommendation I have is, like you said, plan out your trip to see the sights. Don't plan your trip to go crazy and think you're going to get drunk and party every night, because that's not what Egypt's about. I mean, you can do those things, but that's not what they specialize in. That what you're going for there is history, like the history of the world, the origins of
Modern civilization.
architecture basically starts at these places. Well, at least the known history starts at these places. So plan it out, to do your research, like Sarah said. Definitely look into what historical sites mean something to you, and go to those places so you can experience the history of them and not just be there to party and say you went to another country. That's not what, if you're going to do that, take another trip, go to another country.
To kind of piggyback off of that recommendation, you're going to Egypt for these historical sites. I understand trying to get this Instagram shot of, so you can show everybody you're in Egypt. That was one of my biggest pet peeves, seeing it there.
That's a great point.
One of the things that I did learn from the Egypt travel podcast is you're going to have time to take pictures. You're going to have that opportunity. When you first, one of the recommendations was when you first arrive to the pyramids of Giza, put your phone down.
Yeah.
Because I don't even know how to explain it, to take that all in.
Yeah.
I don't want to live it through my phone. I took very little pictures because I wanted to experience Egypt through my own eyes. And yeah, take pictures to have those memories, of course, but
experience it first.
Don't sit there and plus, on top of that, other people are there too. And don't sit there blocking the path to take these poses, like, oh my God.
To get perfect shots. And
there's no need for that. Like, you're going to Photoshop them anyways to take everybody out. It's a lot more work than really needs to be done. I mean, I could confidently say to people, I've been to Egypt, I've seen Egypt, versus those people who are just trying to take those pictures.
Right. They're not going to get the experience and the knowledge.
Yeah, it was. And to see all of that, like the hieroglyphs and just the architecture and
piggybacking on that, if I can real quick, be respectful of these sites. They are ancient for a reason. They have survived all this time for a reason, and that's because you don't got people climbing all over them and doing things that you shouldn't do. Now, there was people climbing on the sides of the pyramids where they shouldn't have been, and they'll tell you not to. If you're at a site that has a bunch of historical statues and sculptures and stuff, don't put your stuff down on them like it's a table. Those are historical, things that these people dug up and put on display. They're not there for you specifically. They're there to admire and learn from. So, be respectful of the country and of what they've preserved for our knowledge.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, so let's talk about sites that you do recommend and sites you don't recommend.
That's hard because I recommend all the sites that we went to.
Well, okay. Well, to that note, the two that we didn't see that I would like to go back for, or weekend trip or something, is
Oh, there's two that we didn't get to see that I could think of. Go ahead.
Dundara.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen some videos of that temple, and it's crazy. That's the Temple of Hathor.
Oh, okay.
So that one looks really, really cool. And then the Valley of the Queens.
Yes, the Valley of the Queens. Well, that was my fault, but I definitely would have loved to see the Valley of the Queens. Mainly because I'm a female and woman power, and but one of the sites that I definitely recommend going to that I at first was like, I want to see it, but now that like if people ask me, I definitely recommend was Aswan. Cairo is a big city, but Aswan was just, and Philae were like beautiful. Like
Yeah.
it was way beyond my expectations, but they were some of the sites that I was like, wow, this is pretty amazing. You definitely get the oasis part of Egypt.
Yeah, believe it or not.
It definitely more in the heart of the country, but it was definitely
Definitely do when you're there.
yeah, for sure.
To that note, two of them that I thought were just really, really good stops were the ones on the east bank of the Nile in Luxor, the Ramesseum, and God, I can't remember the other one that was there. But these two temples, they're like on the way to the Valley of the Kings, and there was nobody there. And they were full of hieroglyphics and history, and they were freaking awesome because there was nobody there. So it was like,
Well, a lot of people just go for the big sites that they
Right.
know of because they don't do the research.
well, also, so to that point, also do go to the ones that are lesser visited because they're just as good.
And there's actually, I feel like, more at those because you don't have as much tourist flow.
Yeah.
That I felt like there was more room to breathe and more to kind of get to experience the whole thing.
Right, and not that you're pressured in any way to move along or anything, but when there's thousands of people visiting the same temple at the same time that you are, you feel like sort of a pressure to take a quick glance, learn what you're going to learn, and move on.
Yeah.
At
And that
these-
wasn't like no one was forcing you, but you just it's kind
Right.
of like waiting in line at the grocery store,
Right.
and like you're trying to get all your bags, and you're like, oh my god, I'm sorry, and the
Right.
person behind you, like no one cares.
That's a good analogy, and but so to that point, the lesser visited ones, the lesser known about ones, you don't feel that pressure. It's you can take your time, you can sit with your tour guide and talk about things and ask questions, and it's easier to think of questions because you're not pressured. You don't feel like, oh well, there's 200 people behind me waiting to see the same exact thing. So those sites are really cool. Now a site that I wish people would see, but not, but I don't recommend you go to is Edfu Temple. Edfu Temple was freaking amazing. That place was so cool. And it's like a labyrinth. There's stairs, there's rooms, there's so much. It's like huge. But to start with, the first thing is the abuse of animals there, and it's rampant. It's horrible.
Well, to give backstory on why it matters one so much to us is that we are huge animal lovers. I mean, we cry when any animal dies in movies. We try to avoid watching those scenes.
Well, to be fair, that's the majority of America, even people who are big meat eaters.
Yeah.
But
like we're above those people, and not like, oh my god, we're above everybody, but I meant like we take it a step further.
definitely.
I mean, like
We're vegetarian.
we're
for one.
vegetarian. We didn't do the camel rides because even though their camels are, most of them were well kept,
Yeah.
that is to me a sign of, the animal's not there for my ride and enjoyment. Like
Right.
it's not, I don't want to do that. And seeing any animal in distress is like, when we went to this, like I felt physically sick. Like I felt so awful, and I did not want to do it. And I cried on the
cried.
way and on the way back
So did I.
because it was so bad. I would not recommend going until they got that fixed.
So what she's talking about is there when you get off the cruise ship. So
If you go on a cruise ship,
if you go on
or you go however
whether you go or not, they have the horse-drawn carriage mafia. Now this is how these people make their money, is by giving horse-drawn carriage rides, because it's about a mile into the city. But the horses are emaciated, they're dehydrated, and they're expected to work harder than any human being ever. I saw one that nearly collapsed giving a ride, and the guy got mad at him. Like, give the damn thing some water or some food. He's freaking dying.
And this was the only place that we saw it all over Egypt with horse-drawn carriages and stuff. And there's a lot of like dogs and cats that are strays. But this one was the absolute worst.
By far.
But to Egypt's credit, the rest of Egypt knows about it, and they have been trying to tell that city to
they're going to lose money
because I'm telling you, the like Americans type of person who's a meat eater and who's like, I put my animals to work. They actually take care of their animals, and you would be disgusted at what you saw.
And to that note, if you go on even Google Maps and look at the temple and look at the reviews that people left, there's one that a guy was talking about that they got off the cruise ship and refused to get into the horse-drawn carriage because of the conditions.
And they were willing to pay anything to go on the cab.
Right. And the horse-drawn carriage mafia got the police involved and said that they were going to take their tour guide to jail if they didn't take the ride. Mm-hmm. And they will. It's not a joke. They have it locked down. So just basically that's the reason we did it, because we had to. We were forced to. So, but it did not make us happy. It was horrible. But the temple itself was amazing.
Yeah. And like every review says that.
Right.
So I would, if you're planning a coming up trip, I wouldn't go.
And if you do decide to go there, find another way. Walk if you have to.
If you can.
If you can.
If you're able to. It's hard.
It's really hard.
I definitely don't recommend it.
So it's best to skip over it. Besides, the other thing about Edfu was the line to get in. There's a single door to get into the complex.
But to be fair, we went with the line of cruise ships.
Yeah, okay, so that's even worse, because all the cruise ships go to the same
stops at the same time.
So when you arrive at a new temple, there's also 30 or 40 other cruise ships full of people that are waiting to go to that same temple at the exact same time. So most of them, there's multiple entrances to these temples, so it's not so cluttered. But you can watch my video at the entrance to Edfu. It's a room, a big room that could probably hold 200 or 300 people, but they're all shoulder to shoulder and they're pushing their way in. And when you get inside the temple, it's just as bad. It's shoulder to shoulder the whole time you're there. So, and it's such a big temple, so much to see, but I think the negatives outweigh the positives at that one.
One of the things while we're talking about Edfu that I have to commend Sophia on is what made her also a great tour guide was she asked me about us, just what we like to do in our lives. And when she found out that our children are dogs and that we love our dogs as much as we do, she did let me know right away. She's like, okay, one of the things I want to warn you about is the street dogs and the street cats. No one hits them, nothing like that. There's nothing where it's abuse. They're just
homeless.
They're homeless. It's really bad. But also on that note, I think they're very smart animals because they hang out all at the temples, all at the tourist sites because they know they're they're going to sucker into this.
And to their credit,
everybody did.
Yeah, they are fed well because of all the people who stop to pay attention to them. They get plenty of water. So they're very...
But they had, you can see some had, I don't want to say ticks because I couldn't see any ticks. But
bugs.
They had bugs and they're just street dogs and cats.
But at least they're fed and watered. All of them were. Every single temple had a fair share of it. But even traveling through the cities, you'll see them roaming. So, but at least even some of the Egyptians will take the time to stop and give them some food and some water every now and then. So those were the least, I feel, abused out of all the animals. The horses were the worst. Mm-hmm. The camels were pretty well taken care of. So at least to their credit, there's that.
And I want to let everybody know, camels are not native to Egypt. They were brought over. They were never ridden in ancient times. So the whole picture in front of the pyramids with the camel is totally inaccurate. I just want everyone to know that. I was one of those. I have a tattoo to prove it that I didn't know any better. But it's not native to Egypt, so it's not something that you have to do.
Right.
Just on that note. It's not.
They will try to pressure you into riding their camels.
But that's why you have to have I feel either a strong person to say no.
Yeah.
Or a good tour guide to just ask you. And then if you say no, the tour guide will then tell them no.
Right.
And they will be firm with them.
La shokran. Just say la shokran. No, thank you.
Besides Edfu, is there anywhere else that you think, well, I didn't have to see it, but I would say the Library of Alexandria
Yeah, that wasn't really up my alley.
I mean, it was cool to see.
It's cool historically, but and also the
The outside of the building was cool.
yeah, it really was. Well, and I did like that the museum in the basement. What's his name? Anwar Sadat.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a cool museum.
Yeah, that was a cool little
So
thing.
so the library does have its pluses, but also I don't know that it's worth an entire trip. Although
And we only spent,
we spent one day up there.
but we came right back the same day. So we didn't
Right.
spend the night. We had a meal. We went to the library.
Yeah, that was cool. The meal was cool.
Yeah. And that's why you should have a great tour guide and you should have a great rapport with them because all of our tour guides we did, they each took us to a spot that was just like kind of like,
Off the beaten path. It was
Yeah.
their recommendation, which was way cool. All of those were really cool.
yeah.
And tour guides eat for free at these places because they're bringing business to these restaurants and whatnot. So
And they take you back to the whole safety thing. They do take care of you and tell you, like, this is a good place to eat. Don't go
Right.
here. Let's go here if you're going to choose somewhere. They
Right.
give you those recommendations
and
for a reason.
to that note, the tour guides also have their little side hustle going with a lot of the businesses out there. But to be fair, the businesses that they stop you at to buy stuff is stuff that you're probably going to want to buy anyways. We did, certainly. So they stopped us at
Where they make one of the places was in Philae, where you get all your bases for your perfumes and colognes that we
Yeah.
wear. But these tour guides with these other businesses, they're both reputable. So when they take you there, it's because it's real.
right. It's not bullshit.
Made in China,
Right.
as our
Right.
tour guides love
So
to
like
say.
they took us to the perfume spot. They took us to the
Jewelry.
to the jewelry shop,
Mm-hmm.
and that was a good jewelry shop. They took us to a place where they make the paintings on the
Papyrus.
papyrus, and that's legit.
Mm-hmm.
They took us to a stone shop where they used, God, I can't remember what the stone is called. Well, they hand carve all these stones into all these sculptures and chess sets and all kinds of cool stuff. Though we didn't buy anything there, but we would have had we had more time. Then we went to the place where they hand make rugs, and Sarah actually got to participate in that, and so we bought some rugs there. So a lot of the places are, you may not want to go, but when you get there, you're going to be like, oh yeah, this is cool. I want to buy something here.
And it's a lot of like still ancient practices that they're trying to
Right.
keep alive.
Right.
That they have you go to these places.
Right. It's not like fake made papyrus, and they'll explain to you why and how that is. It's not fake made rugs. It's not, none of this stuff is cheaply made. It's, in the conversion rate, it's worth the money. Some of the stuff gets a little pricey, but it's worth it. It's quality stuff. So
Yeah.
So if the tour guide takes you to one of the shops, just participate. Even if you don't buy anything, just get the experience because it is cool.
Yeah.
So to be fair, the only place that I really would say is okay, in my opinion, to skip over would be the temples of the nobles, or the tombs of the nobles. They were nice and cool, but it wasn't something that I would have rather gone to the Valley of Queens there.
Yeah, but it was good to see.
It was
but,
cool to see, but the Valley of the Kings had already ruined it for us because we went there first. So
But it was more of the history and and not a lot of people were there, so we actually got to
that kind of
see
was cool.
what it was like. One of the things that a lot of people are kind of like, oh, there's nothing in here, is going into the Great Pyramid of Giza.
Uh-huh.
But what I was telling people, yeah, there's nothing in there.
Nope.
There's no hieroglyphs. There's nothing. But
There is carvings on the wall from people in the 1800s and whatnot, but
Well-
that's not Egyptian.
But what I like to tell people is there is nothing holding that together besides the stones.
Right.
There,
The weight of the stones.
you have to admire that.
Yeah, and how good the stones are cut. How
Yeah,
perfectly
the
they're
two temples
are.
that we went into. It's how smooth it is.
I would say any pyramid that they offer you or that you have the ability to go inside, do it. Except for maybe the step pyramid, because our tour guide was saying it's just, you don't get to go through the whole thing. You just go to the main corridor and look down, so it's not really worth it. But, the red pyramid, the bent pyramid, the pyramid of Giza, it's a hell of a leg workout. Your ass is going to be sore as hell the next day, but so worth it just to experience it.
And so when you go into these places to the pyramids, it's small. You like you can see in the videos we're hunched over.
Yeah.
And it does get hot mainly because there's a lot of people in there,
Yeah.
and two, you're exerting yourself. I would say if you're claustrophobic, you will definitely be in that feeling with.
Yeah, you're not gonna like it.
But what I kept telling myself was that this has been here for thousands of years. Ain't
Yeah.
nothing gonna happen now all of a sudden.
Yeah,
after
right.
Thousands of years. So if you're able, do it.
Definitely do it.
Yeah.
That was definitely cool. I don't think it would have been the same without doing that.
Yeah.
I mean, we wouldn't have known that we missed out on anything, but also we gained so much by doing it.
Yeah.
And that was way cool. Was it the red pyramid we went into in Dashur?
I think so.
Yeah, it wasn't the bent. The bent is expert level. That one is 400 something meters down into the ground. So that one we didn't get to go into, but the one next door to that was the red pyramid. That one was cool, and there is like a man-made staircase in the main room to get to the second and third room, but it stunk like pee in there. That was my takeaway. It was really cool though. The
But it's mainly
part
because of body odor. That's what it is. Everyone in there sweating.
Well, I'm sure there was like mice and shit roaming in there at some
doubt it.
point. I don't know. It
was
was a pee smell. So
okay.
if you go in there, just be ready for that. It's still worth the trip. I'd go in again. But yeah, like she said, it's pretty claustrophobic in these corridors because they're about 4 feet by 3 feet, and so you're definitely hunched over. They do have like a structure built on the floor for you to grip. To grip. It's wood, and then every couple steps, every foot or two, there's like a plank running across so you can stop yourself from sliding down. So that's not an issue as far as safety goes, but yeah, it's a hell of a workout, but definitely worth it. So do it. One stop that we did that I really liked and was surprised about, I really didn't have interest until we got there, was the Memphis in Saqqara because of the Ramses statue. So there's a second statue that's identical inside the new gem, the Grand Egyptian Museum, and that's what you're going to see if you get on Instagram Reels or TikTok. You're going to see that big old Ramses statue, and it's probably, 50 feet or something like that. It's huge. But the twin of that is laying on its back inside this structure that they built at this Memphis site, and the detail is insane.
Yeah.
Especially for how big it is and how smooth everything. Like, yeah, it's crazy. It's
Yeah.
way cool. Watch my videos. Go on my channel and see all these things. It might give you a better appreciation for planning. If you do decide to go, you can get a taste of what it's like and what you do and don't want to see. So use my channel as a resource also. Use our videos to plan your trip should you decide to go. Now, do you have any other recommendations before we move on?
You're going to Egypt to see these sites, so go and see these sites. I mean, I don't know. They're breathtaking to realize that these were made thousands of years ago, and to be able to see it and touch it, and
Yeah.
you just need to see it. Of course, do all the big sites, but all these little sites off to the side is definitely worth seeing as well.
Definitely. And listen to your tour guides. Like, we had one that wasn't the best English speaker, Hassan, but he was a hell of a nice guy. And, hanging out with him for so many days, we started to understand a lot better. And you'll see in my video that I did a lot of translating and put script into the videos so that you can understand what he's saying too. But they really know what they're talking about, and they can explain these structures and how they were built and why they were built and what these stories on the walls are saying. So use them as a resource. Don't just go to look at the stuff, because it is cool to look at and touch and everything like you said, but also
To understand
the
it.
stories are way cool.
And they do it so often that they will point you out things that I didn't, after all the research that I've done, didn't notice or
Right.
didn't take
Right.
part. And they're like, oh, look at this. And I was like, oh my, yeah.
I will say that I really learned a lot. I was of the mindset, oh, we're going to go to Egypt and we're going to look at all these cool stuff. I wasn't of the mindset that, oh, I'm going to learn a whole bunch about Egyptian history and learn about who these people were and that Ramses had a huge peepee. That wasn't a thing that I thought of.
Yes. Ramses is everywhere.
Everywhere. Ramses is second, to be clear.
Yes. And he's the one that everyone knows of. So
That guy had an amazing life, and you can learn about it through my channel or through a tour guide. But yeah, he lived 80-something years, had 100-something kids, and built everything everywhere.
And on the note of the tour guides, there's so much to know about Egypt. that you need. What was great about doing my research is that I can point out things that might have not a lot of people would have cared to, like, they could go without knowing, but
Right.
that I could have pointed out and been like, look, so this is what they did, and this is why there's this big square here.
Right.
And because I learned that from doing research and to learn more about it. So
Right.
yeah.
Wow.
So,
Wow.
here, is this better? Okay, so I think that's going to cover it for recommendations for me. Again, just to touch points, save a lot of money, spring for the comfortable travel on the airplanes. Make sure you budget for trips, foods, extra stuff that you want to buy. Don't be cheap. The travel planners and tour guides aren't going to put you in cheap hotels or take you to cheap restaurants. And I don't mean that financially. I mean that quality-wise. Everywhere we stayed was great. Even the hotel in Luxor was a Hilton, and damn, it was really nice. Really nice. So see the sights, be respectful of the culture, and to that note, it's kind of gets uncomfortable the longer you stay there because it's not what we're used to, and maybe that's, American privilege, but I think, just experience it. You're there to experience it. You're not there to bring American culture to them. You're there to learn from them. So do you have any other do's and don'ts?
Like I said, being the female traveler, everything was in my name. But when it came to people, it's not that they're ignorant to the fact, they're used to addressing the man.
Right.
And they would always address James, and then he would look at me and go, what?
Yeah, see
Yes,
that, and
no,
that's part
ma'am.
of the discomfort in their culture that I'm talking about.
But that's about like the extent of it. And if you were the one planning, just have that.
Just be okay with it. It comes with the territory.
Yeah, and
It's-
I didn't get offended. I was just kind of like, I know how it is and everything. And the other thing, one of the recommendations that I forgot to mention that it was cool to see, but I could have definitely skipped over it, and it was mainly because it was our first official day there. We
Oh,
were
yeah,
jet
yeah.
lagged,
I
and it
agree.
was seeing like the religious
The Coptic churches.
and what is the temples called? With Muhammad Ali.
Oh, yeah. The mosque.
The mosques. I could have gone without seeing those. That's not what I wanted to see because
Right. That wasn't part of it is part of their history, but it wasn't part of the ancient history.
Yes.
And it was cool. It was cool
learned
to
a lot.
see. We did learn a lot.
And we learned a lot about their religion, and which was great, and I love having that knowledge, but I could have easily.
Yeah.
But it was more for an easy day of not walking a whole lot
Right.
and just to kind of get used to the jet lag.
Yeah, because you will be jet lagged. You
Well,
will.
I wasn't. You were.
Well, I can't
I think
sleep
it was
on
a
planes.
mindset. Well, it was a plane, and you had to see it, I guess.
I got a couple hours sleep, but I didn't sleep like everybody else slept, so
Yeah.
I
So,
watched lots of movies.
but yeah, I think that was the thing. One of the things that I learned from my boss, that because they do a lot of international travel, that I try to tell you,
Yeah.
but you didn't listen, was not to, when you get somewhere, don't say, oh, well, it's 1 o'clock back home. It's 2 o'clock back home. It would be 2 p.m. or 2 a.m. back home.
Well, that fascinates me, so I was going to do that anyway.
Yeah, but for everyone else who's listening and watching, do not do that.
Wait.
Why not?
It's all in your brain that causes jet lag, because you do get that. Say your body has that natural circadian rhythm that will go with the sunrise and sunset.
Right.
And when you keep putting your mind back, oh, it's supposed to be 2 o'clock, I gotta stay up, or no, I gotta go to bed. You're tired, you're done. But if you just go, oh, it's 2 o'clock here, cool. It's 2 p.m. Let's go and do things, or it's dinner time, let's go and do things. But it's not. Don't ever do that. Don't sit there and be like, oh, I should be in bed by now and blah blah blah. No, don't.
Okay, good point.
And
all right.
one last recommendation.
Of course.
Is the phone situation. We
Oh.
had Verizon.
Yep.
One of our biggest concerns was being able to reach back home. One, for safety issues. If we got stuck anywhere, we were able to call,
Yeah.
which our tour guide did set that up. Any emergencies, who to call.
Right.
In the country, outside the country, everything. But we had Verizon, and it was astronomical how much we had to pay. So we switched carriers to make sure we had an international plan that we were able to use when we were there, which, I mean, we only called once in a blue moon. Like,
I don't remember calling at all. I think we just text the whole time.
I think we just text, like,
But it
sending
was-
pictures because you're,
Right. But it was free text with T-Mobile, it's international text is free. So like there was no limits or anything. Now, they do have a quarter a minute call rate if you're calling international, but Verizon's was $10 a day if you even connected to a tower. So
Yeah.
it was definitely not worth that to us. Plus, we got free Wi-Fi on the planes here in the States, so that's cool.
And everywhere pretty much had Wi-Fi, like hotels and everything.
Yeah, anytime you get a hotel, they give you a Wi-Fi password. So,
but it was more of just when you have that comfort of being able to reach home for any emergencies at home.
right.
But
to that note, if you do plan on doing a bunch of international travel, or any for that matter, maybe get a temporary T-Mobile phone if you're super set with Verizon or whatever. But yeah, definitely.
If you're going to do a lot of international travel, but it's good to have.
It definitely is.
And then while we're smoking the hookah, I was just remembering everyone there smokes cigarettes like a train.
God, yeah,
and
even at the temples.
It's everywhere, and it's not like here in the States where you can only do it outside and they can't do it in restaurants. It is everywhere.
Only place you can't smoke is on the planes.
Yeah, it was
everywhere else you can smoke. And like I said, in these historic sites, and they smoke like trains. So just be prepared for that. It's a lot of smoke everywhere.
Yeah. That's about all on. Like I said, do your research on everything from drinking the water, the tap water, to everything. I made sure to do that. The tour guides did. So the tour guides are really great at making sure you stay hydrated and have water bottles for you. So I try to be as eco-friendly as possible, and I don't like to use water bottles, and they don't really recycle. Only one place did.
Yeah.
So we got these water bottles that sanitize, which was definitely worth the investment. But everywhere we went did have water bottles for you.
Yeah, and their water has minerals in it. It's not like our water that's RO filtered, so there's no nutrients to it. Theirs is actually good for you. So
yeah,
that was kind of cool.
But you did, they do offer that, and if you don't have a tour guide and you're going on your own, you will have to pay for those water bottles and everything. Right.
But it's better than drinking the water.
Yeah.
It will make you sick.
Yeah.
And one thing we didn't take into account was ice.
I mean, I did. And you just want to make sure if you do have ice that it's, what did he say, filtered? No, he said
purified
ice or whatever. And you just want to make sure that if you're getting anywhere that has ice, to
just hold the ice is the best policy.
Yeah. And be okay.
Alcohol, one last thing. Alcohol is the thing there. They cater to, tourists. It's a dry country for the Egyptians, but they do have a couple of local brews that they make themselves, which is made with the tap water. So I recommend you don't drink those. But and then as far as alcohols go, they have a couple, but it's not a big thing there. So just best to avoid drinking altogether when you go there. Like I said, you're not there to party anyway. You're there for the historical value of it and to experience it. So do that. Be a tourist. Experience it. And when you're done at the sites, take pictures and video or whatever. But experience it for yourself first. I'm really bad about taking millions of pictures and videos, but I did experience everything firsthand. I didn't stare at it through the camera the whole time, which kind of shows in my videos. You can see some parts where I think I cut them all out, but most times I would just drop the camera or be looking at nonsense. And but definitely you're paying a lot of money for the experience, so experience it. Now, that makes you an extraordinary Joe, that you planned and pulled off this entire trip for us when I can barely tie my shoes. So thank you.
That's why you have Velcro.
That's right. But on that note, thank you for joining me on the podcast today and doing the interview. I know you don't like these things again, but I appreciate you doing it.
And that's why you don't see me in any of the videos.
Yeah, she's not big on it.
Didn't want to be filmed.
But you did good. You did really good. So thank you.
That would be $50.
You got
per
it.
word spoken.
Jesus Christ.
So let me get my 50 million words right in.
All right. Well, on that note, this has been another episode, actually the second episode of Extraordinary Joes. So thank you for joining us, and we will see you on another one. Bye-bye.